Hey everyone, it's Holly. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I took this Polly Pocket Compact and brought it back to its original glory using a wet sanding technique. This compact is the 1992 Stampin School Playset. Let's get started. So first let's talk about the condition that the compact was in when I got it. So you can see that it's quite sun damaged. There's a lot of sticker residue. And if we look at it from the back, it's not too bad on the back, but the front's not looking so hot. So lots of sun damage, lots of sticker residue that we're going to need to clean up, and a little bit of scuffing as well. So the first product I'm using here is called Elmer's Sticky Out, and it's just an orange oil. You can get this just about anywhere. It comes under different names, but they all do the same thing. It helps to remove that sticker residue. So to get started, I'm just putting a few dots here on the compact directly, and a little goes a long way, so you don't need to use a lot. And then I'm just buffing it out with a Q-tip. And this does take a lot of time and patience to do this safely, but we're speeding it up for you so that you don't need to watch all of that. You can see though how quickly that Q-tip got dirty, and it did a great job of taking the sticky residue off. You can see this probably used to belong to someone named Courtney based on that fading there, but we got all that residue off. So the first thing I tried to change the sun damage was this thing called Rejuvenate, and I didn't really expect this to work, but I figured I'd give it a shot just in case. It's meant to repair sun damaged plastic, but upon using it, I found that when you get it into the dish, it's quite kind of milky, and it's more of a finish rather than something you would use to clean or repair damage. It just adds gloss back. So as you can see, when I'm putting this on, it didn't really do anything. It just kind of added a bit of shine and gloss to it. Unfortunately, because it didn't do anything, I did take it off, but it just was easy to wipe that off and start over. So since that didn't work, I figured let's just move on to the inside, and we'll clean the inside first. So the first product I'm using is just a multi-surface cleaner. I just found sort of the most eco-friendly, gentle one that I could. It's more of a green cleaner, but when I open this compact, you'll see the condition it came in. It's really, really messy in here. This is because this is a stamping set and this is all ink. The good news is that this ink is supposed to be washable, so it will hopefully come off very easily, but it's all over the place. It is in every little nook and cranny in here. It's all over the stamps, it's all over the plastic, so it's a lot of work that's going to be required to get this cleaned up, but I'm hoping that with some of this cleaner, I can get that done fairly easily. I'll warn you that I'm going to go through a lot of Q-tips here, but you can see how dirty this is. So I'm just gently dampening the Q-tip. I don't want it too wet because there are stickers in here, and I don't want the stickers to bubble at all. So we want to make sure that the Q-tip is just lightly dampened with that. And I'm just going through very gently and wiping down those surfaces. It was surprisingly dirty, even though it didn't look that dirty on those particular areas. And of course, the bottom half of the compact is very, very dirty, but the top half was surprisingly dirty and cleaned up very quickly. For the bottom half, it's really, really inky. So I'm just pulling out those stamps. I'm putting them off to the side, and we're going to deal with the compact, just the hard plastics first. Okay, so now that I've got that open, you can see what I'm dealing with. It's quite a mess. So we're just gonna get started using more Q-tips. So again, just lightly dampening the Q-tip, and I'm just going over those heavily soiled areas. The key here is to just take your time, which is why we're speeding this up, because I really did take my time cleaning this up. Especially when you're working with ink, you don't want that to get onto the other elements, because in these earlier poly compacts, there is a lot of use of stickers, and we don't want to smear the ink onto the stickers because that will be difficult to get out. So after first pass, you can see that there's still some sticky residue here. I'm not sure how that happened or where it came from, but I'm just putting a few more drops of that orange oil very carefully. I'm trying to catch it in the lip of the plastic there. And I'm, again, just going to take a Q-tip and I'm just going to slowly buff that out with the orange oil. And it came off pretty easily, just again with some patience. So took a little bit of effort, but look how well that cleaned up. It's looking pretty good. I am feeling quite happy about that right now. The downside is that there's still a lot of ink on this compact, so it's gonna take a little bit to just clean this up. And to be fair, you know, these are 30 years old, so there is going to be quite a bit of ink on most of these sets that you find, just because of their age and because they were played with. So it's inevitable that you're gonna get some ink on them. But the other problem is the accessories. This is the back of the teacher's desk, and this is the cover for the ink pads. So this is naturally going to be one of the inkiest spots. Fortunately, it is washable ink and it is coming off quite easily. So it's just a little bit of patience and being extra gentle. You'll see that the chalkboard, it's actually just a sticker over the plastic. So as I go to clean that, I just have to be extra gentle just to make sure I don't wear that plastic and that sticker down or cause any bubbling. But that cleaned up pretty well. I am quite happy with that. The stamps, on the other hand, they are quite inky. The problem is that it's hard to get the Q-tip in the grooves. So what I'm doing is I'm putting some of this spray in a dish, and not a lot, just enough that I could potentially soak the stamps, but without the desk portion of the stamp sitting in the liquid for too long. I just want to be really careful with these older plastics. So I'm just lightly cleaning these up and then placing the stamp side down in the fluid. And I'm just going to leave it there for a minute and then we'll see how that turns out. Okay, so it's been a minute now. We are going to check these out. I anticipate I'm gonna have to clean them up still a bit, but when I pull this up, you can see it's really pink underneath. So it looks like a lot of the ink is soaking out, which is good news. Yeah, it's quite pink. Hard to see on the camera here, but when I put this back down, you'll be able to see that it's quite pink under there. So that's good news. It means that we are getting that ink out. So I'm just gonna lightly see if I can get some of this extra residue off. And I'm actually really impressed with how clean this is coming. So I'm just putting some paper towel down so I have a place to place these, and it's gonna help soak off that extra cleaner that's on top. In the meantime, I'm just going in with a Q-tip and I'm lightly cleaning up the ink pads. And you might be wondering why I'm doing that, but hard to see, but they were actually quite dusty on top. So I'm just taking a moist Q-tip and I cleaned those right up. And they are still inky, which is surprising, but the ink is totally functional in this compact, which is amazing. Okay, so now that is starting to look a little bit better, we still have to deal with this sun damage. We should check out how those stamps did. So, oh my goodness, look at that. So much came out of the stamp right onto the paper towel. So that method worked really well. I actually can't believe how clean these are. Look, it is so clean. Wow. Wow, that worked so well. Yeah, they look almost brand new. That is amazing. So that method totally works if you have stamps and you want to try it. Just soak them only for a minute, didn't take very long, a little bit of fluid, and now they are good to go, just like new. So I'm going to place these back in here for now. We need to start looking at the front of the compact. So I'm just going to get this sealed back up and tidied up. And wow, look at that. So much residue came off. So we'll get this tidied up and we're going to look at the front of the compact now. Okay, so you might be wondering, why do you have a bowl of water? What are you doing with the sanding block? Well, I figure, why not try sanding this off? There's a chance, and I know it's a risk, and it's a risk I'm willing to take here, but there is a chance that underneath this sun damaged plastic that there is good plastic. I just don't know how deep the sun damage goes. So I'm starting with 180 grit sanding block, and this is a dry sand, not for the faint of heart, because I am creating a lot of acrylic dust when I do this. I would recommend wearing a mask just to keep your airways safe. But as you can see, as I do this, it is actually starting to get down to some of that purple plastic, which is kind of amazing. I always thought that sun damage went a bit deeper, but maybe I'm lucky in this case. I don't know. If you've dealt with this before and you know the answer to that, drop it in the comments. I'd love to know. But it's kind of amazing that it is coming off. However, it's not coming off that fast. So this might seem a bit shocking, but what I decided to do next was use a nail file. And this nail file is 100 grit on one side and 180, which is what I was using before, on the other side. So I've actually gone into a more coarse, 100 grit is more coarse than the 180. And I'm really going for it here. So again, not for the faint of heart, because we love these toys, but I really, for the sake of science, I just needed to know, can I get this sun damage out? So this is sped up. I need you to know I filed this for well over 30 minutes, and I'm doing it very carefully to not add damage anywhere I don't need to add any extra damage, and I don't want to misshape the compact. So I'm taking a lot of care when I do this. Now, as I did this, I purposely left the hinge undone because the hinge also has some damage on it, and I did that last. It's hard to get the hinge, so I actually had to go inside and do it from the inside. Again, being super careful because you don't want to damage any of the paint, but look at that. So this is rough. This is really scratched up right now. And I don't think the scratches are picking up on camera very well, but know that that's really quite deeply scratched. So then I moved up to a 220 grit. So this is, if you were sanding wood, this would be considered quite a fine sand. On plastic, it's not. It's still quite scratchy. Now it is a lot smoother, and here I'm just using a nail brush just to clean off the dust created from the sanding process. The 220 is looking pretty good. This is where I'm now going to move up to the heavy hitters. So as you go up the number in sandpaper, it gets smoother and smoother and smoother. So the higher number means the finer the grit. So here's where the bottle of water comes into play. I am going to start wet sanding. This is 400 grit wet sandpaper, specifically designed to be used in water. And I'm putting a little liquid Dawn on it just to add a little bit of lubrication, since this is the first wet sand that we're doing. So you get the sandpaper really wet, and you want to use sort of a little bit of a circular motion when you do this. But I'm now just moving around the compact, and so quickly, I can't emphasize how quickly this happened. It started to get so smooth. My mind was blown as I was doing this, because I couldn't believe how soft and smooth it got right away. And especially, imagine you're filing this with a nail file. For it to be this smooth so quickly was mind-blowing. So once I finished with the 400, I just wiped it down. It's looking really good after the 400, but I had a lot more sandpaper in my back pocket, and I figured, why not just keep going finer and finer and finer? The only thing that can really happen at this point is it gets shinier. So I moved up to a 600 grit. So again, a much finer grit than before. All of my higher grits are all wet sanding. A wet sanding is what is going to give you on plastic that really nice finish. So now I'm going through with the 600. I'll note I also initially had some sun bleaching, or sun damage, I should say, on the front latch. So that pink part of the compact, it was turning kind of orange, and I also managed to get that out. So it's back to its original color. Now I'm up to the 1000 sandpaper. So this is one of the finest grits that I could find at the store. And while this looks like I'm doing this fairly quickly, I need you to know this did take about 3 hours. It's a very time-consuming project to carefully sand this as to not cause any more damage. But the payoff's huge, because as you're looking at this, I honestly can't believe the difference between this compact and the one that I was holding in the beginning. So finally, my last one, this is the highest one I could find, was a 1500 grit sanding block, wet sanding block. And this, it was like squeaky clean. It was amazing. It's so satisfying to do this. And as you can see, I have a paper towel there because it was quite wet when you're using the wet sanding. So I was just constantly wiping it down. And look at that. Wow. So smooth. I'm floored. I can't believe how smooth it came out. So there is one more product that I got to help with this process. It's something that I got off of Amazon, and it's called Novus Cleaner. It's designed to clean and polish plastics. So I'm starting with what is number 2. You use number 2 first, and it's supposed to remove fine scratches. So I'm just applying a little drop of this onto the compact directly, and then I'm using a cloth to just buff that in. And this is going to help take off any of those remaining minor surface scratches, very, very fine scratches. So I got all of the deep ones out when I did those higher grit of sandpaper, but this is so smooth now. The second one it comes with is just a clean and shine. It doesn't add a gloss to the plastic per se, but it just helps to clean off any residue, anything that's sitting on the plastic. And I'm just applying a few drops of that. And again, I'm just going to wipe this down with a cloth very carefully. I can't believe how good this is looking. So here's my finished product. I can't believe this. I had something that was so damaged, and it just looks normal now. And I honestly didn't think this was possible, but here it is. So lots of time, lots of love, lots of patience, but you can clean this up. I think one of the things that made this easier to clean is that it is flat on the outside, so I didn't have to deal with ridges. And luckily that ink was washable was the other thing. But amazing what you can do with a little patience and time. Here it is, the before and after. You can see the amount of sun damage and compare it to the after, and just such an awesome result. Definitely not for the faint of heart. This was definitely a scary thing to do, but I'm so glad I did because the result was so worth it. So that's how we got this one back to its original color. And the reason I think that this one did so well is because of its shape. It's really smooth. It doesn't have any scalloping or edges or detail the way that the shells shape or the flower shape compacts do in those early Polly Pockets. So this was kind of the best one to try it on. If you try this method out, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear how it goes. Thank you so much for watching this restoration video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like and to subscribe to the channel. I will be bringing you lots more vintage Polly Pocket videos. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.